Welcome to The Smile. My name's Joe Mitiga, and for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to try to share my story with you. My goal in these programming is to create a relationship with you so that you can get to know me and I can get to know you, and I can share my experience, strength, and hope. Today I live a really great life. I feel very connected. I feel very blessed. My life is full of gratitude. I've got a global presence, and it's really in a good spot. I have to say, I'm very, very pleased. Years ago, not so much. And my goal is to kind of come to you each week with a story, with a message of hope, a message. My hope is that my message brings a smile. That's why we call it the Smile. The name of the programming is Project Smile. The name of my website is projectsmile.world. The name of our live stream is The Smile. You hear the common thread, right? A smile. Why is that? And what I learned was, and what I know now is, that if we're living the highest sense of ourselves, that created in God's image thing, if we're living that A, we're going to have a smile. But more importantly, the people around us are going to have a smile. And that's the whole goal. That's my goal. I hope while you watch this, you come back each week. I hope you tell people about us. I hope you'll visit my YouTube channel, at mrjoe.world. Follow me, get to know me better. Let other people get to know me better. Because I promise you, I will be as open as I can. I will be as intimate as I can. I will share my deepest, darkest, scariest stuff with you. Why? Because I know there's a bunch of people watching today that you're probably more connected to the challenges I'm going to share than the glory that I live. And that's okay. Why do I think that I can help? It's because the honest to God's truth is, if I can do it, I believe anybody can. Why? Because I am not special. I'm not. Now, we're all uniquely gifted. We all have the same God inside us. The Father that loves me loves you the same. I'm probably a little more practiced because I've been doing it consciously now over 35 years. Started this whole process of self-discovery, the awareness process, when I was 26. I'm 62, do the math. It's 40 some odd years, 35 years. And what I want to do is I'm going to tell you where I came from. I want you to hear, because if you looked at my life, I live in $1 million house. I always share my puzzle behind me. It's a huge accomplishment, big bucket list, 18,000 pieces. I've written several books. This book over here, We, is my pride and joy right now. Got a new book coming out. This book is going to be on the bookshelves here in September. My previous books, which I'm going to talk about here earlier, is about healing my addiction, because I was addicted hard, dark, deep spots for a long time. And now I'm not. And in future shows, I'm going to not only introduce you to the reason I'm doing this, which is to raise funds for my nonprofit, which is projectsmile.world. I'm going to introduce you to the people that receive any money that you would choose to donate. I've got 2 different groups right now. I call them my kids. They're orphans, but not anymore, because now they've got a dad. I'm the dad. But who am I caregiving to? I'm caregiving to the caregivers. Why do I keep saying we're the generation that changed? Because we are. We're the generation that changed because it's humanity's responsibility to help and support and bring into a balance the most challenged people of the planet. Some of the reasons I can say that so clearly is that there's more wealth in the world now than ever before. There's more money moved around the globe in 1 hour than there used to be in all total dollars and cents 100 years ago. Tremendous amount of wealth. Technology allows us to solve issues today that we didn't have the technology capacities 15, 20 years ago. The water issues in Africa, the only reason people don't have water in Africa, no money. It isn't because of no technology. 20 years ago, that wasn't the case, was it? We've got a generation of children that are growing up smarter than we were. Generation Lap for the first time in human history, literally for the first time ever. And probably the biggest change that's going on in the world, we've got an entire generation of people that have had tremendous success over the past 10, 20, 30 years in creating tremendous amounts of wealth and tremendous amount of gratitude in their life. And now they're saying, now what? I'm 50 with more money than I can spend. What do I do now? I'm 60 with more money than I can spend. How many times can I visit my grandchildren? Well, the now what is the shift from gratitude to grace. And how do you make that a transformational shift? You move from a world of accumulation, which causes gratitude, to giving back, which causes grace. And people are literally by the hundreds of thousands moving into that position. That's why I always say 1% one time a year. 1%. And there's more money available to do that now than ever before. And that's a very exciting time. It is. And that's why this is called The Smile. And my live stream, which I hope you'll join in on the 1st and the 15th of every month. I hope you visit our website and see when it's located and click on and get on the subscription to it. 47,000 people on our 4th live stream. By the time you're watching this video, whenever that is, my hope is we'll be over 100,000 by that point. And people say, well, what is it, Joe? What's so special about it? We're there to create a smile. That's it. An inspirational speaker every 2 weeks, somebody giving hope to a world of people that need the hope. And then my message to them is live as your highest self. How do you know if you're living as your highest self? How do you know if you're living in God's image? Today, now, look across the table. And if your behaviors of today, right now, are bringing a smile to somebody else, you're living as your highest self for that moment. And people say, but I don't have any money to give, Joe. I can't give back. That's fine. I would rather have 1 billion people creating 1 billion smiles than $1 billion. Why? Because if the ultimate goal is to change and to lift humanity's perspective, 1 billion new people creating 1 billion smiles a month, everybody benefits. And that's my message. That's my highest purpose, is to help change the consciousness of humanity, because it's changing so rapidly. We're right in the center of it. We are at an amazing time to be alive. We are. And what I plan to do in different sessions is have other people share with you how God is interacting in their life. And if you're the type of person that, you have the challenge with God, let me raise my hand. I grew up, I was, oh my God, you say God, the hair on the neck of my back, my neck would raise, and I put the fingers up, and I didn't believe in it. But what I really didn't believe in wasn't God. It was human perceptions of religion, not religion itself. Because all doctrines in religion are basically, there's one God, live in that sense of love, understand that that's a loving God, the presence is inside, and go live that presence, period. That's what they all are. Now they've got thousands of words to say the same thing. God is love, love's inside, go live a loving life. Thousands of pages, but billions of interpretations, human interpretations of what's written in these spiritual books. And people say, well, the Bible was inspired. I believe you. I do. Inspired through a human. So the human had some interpretation as he was writing, and maybe 2,000 years ago, whoever wrote it got it perfect. But then the interpretations along the way from generation to generation kind of skewed things, in my view. Am I a Bible enthusiast? Yes. Have I ever read it? Not really. Not a big reader. Nah. But do I know the context? Do I know the foundation to be true? Yes. What is it? That is love. Where is that love? Inside of us. How do we live it? Share love with another human. When you're sharing love with another human, how will you know? You'll see it on their face. It's called smile. That's the whole context. The question is, how did I get here? How did I end up here? Well, for the next few minutes, I just want to tell you my story. My story wasn't always like this. Years ago, I grew up in the Midwest. Typical middle-class family, My dad worked, my mom didn't. We had plenty of money. My dad worked all the time. My mom was always around. We weren't a big I love you family, but we were always a family around each other. There was myself, 3 older sisters. We had the 5 o'clock, 5:30 dinner every day. Typical, And there's no surprises in my childhood, none. It just kind of went that way. It was. Now, the difference then versus now, 60 years ago, I'm 62. So 50 years ago, 55 years ago, I'm a little boy. The sense of emotional communion didn't exist. The whole idea that we're a multidimensional being didn't exist. The whole idea of nurturing and embracing and empowering the emotional side of ourselves, it didn't exist. The concept didn't exist. The teachers didn't exist. There was no books on it. There was no writing on it. There was no nothing on it. Literally. So when a little boy cried, they were told pretty quickly, stop. Big boys don't cry. When a little girl got mad, they would say, you stop that, little girl. You stop that, you naughty little thing. Little girls aren't supposed to get mad. Now, was anybody really trying to hurt anybody back then? No, they were. Now, were there a lot of hardcore slap with the knuckles across the face in many families? Yes. Was that my family? No, it wasn't. I got spanked twice my whole life, literally. So I didn't come from physical abuse. My father was full-blooded Italian, very disciplined. My parents didn't argue much, little bit. And trust me, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I've been years, thousands of self-discovery therapy sessions over my decades. So what I'm telling you here is real. Let me say this right now. If you're in an emotional tough spot, go get some help, for Christ's sake. Stop it. Go get help. Now. Shut this frickin' television off and call somebody. Nobody has an excuse anymore. 1-800-AA if you can't stop drinking. Stop making fricking excuses. Nah. Turn this program off and call somebody. Now, that didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago. Generation of change. If you want to get better, you can get better. Nah, it's up to you, though. If you're hurting. Now, here's the problem. If you're not hurting, but your female partner is, your wife is, you can't save her. What are you doing to make yourself better? Or if you're sitting there working hard and your husband's home drinking all the time, you can't stop him stop drinking. What are you doing to get better? How are you growing? What help are you getting? Each person has to get their own support. Each person has to get their own help. Each person's on their own path. Literally, 3 years ago, how all this got back started in me. I'm literally listening to this woman. She came up on my YouTube, which I am not a big YouTube person. I'm much more now than I ever was. And I hear this interview. And she says, I just sold my very successful business. I launched my 2 boys in school, and everything's great. The only failure I had in my life is my marriage. And I hear this massive voice in my head saying, you didn't fail your marriage. You chose to live your divinity over your humanity. And in that moment, a new book started coming through me called Unequally Yoked. And what is Unequally Yoked really talking about? Unequally Yoked is talking about we're all on a spiritual path, each one of us, but our paths are spiritually individually. We come together at different times to spiritually grow. Marriage typically is a sacred covenant between you and your partner, covenant made with God in the presence of you and your partner. And you and your partner might be growing at a different rate, unequally yoked. That's what happened in this particular case. That voice that came through me was so powerful. It was identical to the voice that came through me 30 years earlier, literally 25 years earlier when I wrote my first book. And in future episodes, I'm going to talk about more the depths of that difficulty that I was in. But basically what happened was back in 1994, I was right before my 31st birthday, and a buddy of mine came in and he said, "Jesus, Joe, you're not going to believe what these blankety blanks," and we were big cussers, and I'm not going to cuss here on this program. Not like I used to. I might slip up, but. And I said, "Lincoln, what the heck is wrong with you?" Now, let me set the stage. At this point in my life, I had been working 7 days a week. I had left college 8 or 9 years earlier, working all the time, drinking every day. I was very functioning. I owned my own business. I smoked marijuana like people smoke cigarettes. I was living in the unfinished side of a basement next to a furnace, thinking nothing about it. And in this particular day, the gentleman who was renting the furnished side, because he had a job that paid, my business wasn't real successful at the time, was the one doing the holler. His name was Lincoln. I said, what is wrong with you? He says, "These miserable SOBs, Joe, you'll never guess what they want me to do." I'm like, "What is it?" "They want me to go 90 days and go to 90 meetings and not drink." I'm like, "What?" "You heard me, Joe, 90 days not drinking." I'll never forget it. I said, "That's the stupidest frickin' thing I've ever heard. Who would want to do that? Like, why would somebody want to do that?" It was going on in my brain. And I remember in that moment thinking, when was the last time I went 90 days? At this point, it was February. I was going to turn 31 in March. I thought back, and I was 14, I think, maybe 15, probably 14 when I'd gone 90 days. It was like, boom, a 2x4 across my forehead. I'd never thought about it. I never had a problem with alcohol and drugs, never. I never did. Why? Because I never tried to stop. Ever. Not once. Never had the thought. It wasn't even a thought. And literally, I was the kid that drank all the time, the high schooler who stuck it and got people to buy it for us so we could go across the state line. Because we were 17, we could act like we're 18 back in the day, Indiana to Michigan. And then in college, everybody had a fake ID. I got my first fake ID when I was 17, barely 17. So I could legally, with a fake ID, buy alcohol. I was the king. And so college, I was the guy who bought for everybody, the whole world, because I had an ID. I was quote unquote legal. It was all a lie, but I was legal. And where many people after college, if they didn't stop, they slowed down. I didn't speed up, but I just kind of stayed the same. Fast forward now 7, 8, 9 years. I'm in a basement with unfurnished and mattress this big, thought nothing of it. The cockroaches, as long as no mice came, that was fine. And when he said it, I was like, wow, I can do it. F it, I can do it. I'm going to do it. But great. I made it 6 days. And on that 7th day, I'm South Atlanta. It's pouring down rain. I just conveniently go into a friend's house who was a guy I smoked marijuana with just about every day. I conveniently let myself in. In other words, I broke in. And I said, if I just can sit here, because my addiction literally had me by the throat. I can't explain it any other way. Had me by the throat. My body was yearning. My body was crying. My body needed drugs and alcohol. And I just remember saying to myself, if I could just sit here for 30 minutes, I'll be able to get out of here. Of course, I picked the most vulnerable place to go. There were drugs and alcohol everywhere in this particular house. And I sat there. I watched the clock. Tick, tick, tick. 30 minutes. Oh no, that was only 3 ticks, 3 seconds. That's exactly how it felt. Every second felt like a minute. Every minute felt like an hour. And sweating. And I call it white knuckling. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm effed. This isn't happening. I'm not going to make it. And I don't know why the next thing happened. I don't. Because I had sworn off God at 26. I remember saying to God, listen, dude, I know you're there. Obviously, I can't make the tree. I get it. You're there. I get it. But the only understanding I had of God was from a religious perspective. And I didn't believe in how the religion pursued God. I just didn't believe it. It didn't work for me. So instead of questioning the religion or pursuing a different type or a different style, I just said, listen, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Like the arrogance of a drug addict that I'm drunk and a 26-year-old, right? And I said, listen, me negotiating with God. You leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. In other words, don't strike me with lightning. And if I go to jail, I won't pray for you to get me out. As far as I was concerned, I was fine. That was my relationship with God. And had some challenging moments. I didn't pray. I wasn't atheist. I always knew there was a God, I consciously, my brain said, no, I don't have any relationship. I don't want any relationship. So later, I determined, because I put him there, share, there's something in me. But now I know that something in me was my higher power. I did not know it at the time. So I'm sitting there at Lawrence's house like this, and I finally stood up and I said, it's like this. I said, God, if I'm not supposed to drink or drug today, I need your help. And a tear came down my eye. She was gone. I mean, literally gone. Lost it for drugs and alcohol. 20th of February, 1994. Gone. And the time I didn't think anything of it. The time I walked out the door and went on with life. But that moment, February 20th, 1994, I'm not supposed to drink or drug, I need your help. The energy that came through, it's just something I could never understand until much later. But the tear that came out of my eye was a real life thing, like the tears I had now of gratitude and grace. But the tear that came out, I could feel it running down my throat. And it was just like, whatever had me, no longer had me. Walk out the door. And my life was never the same. I mean, a lot to share from that spot, but that's the spot of my life, of Joe's life, February 20th, 1994, that I said, God, I need your help. You want a smile on your face today? Say it. Understand it. Just do it anyways. Whether you understand what I'm saying or not, don't go for it. Say it anyways. When you get it, the multidimensional, the human sense of self has to ask your divinity, and your divinity will help. Divinity gives you free will to do with whatever you feel you're supposed to. On that day, I asked. And on that day, I had a powerful experience. And on that day, it's kind of pre-Joe, post-Joe. Nothing was the same. The Smile is about creating a smile. Project Smile.world is about creating free education on the planet so we can bring smiles to kids around the planet. My YouTube channel, MrJoe.world. Join me. Help me. Support me. And how can you really support me? Financially, sure. But what I really want is awareness. I want people to know. All I have to do is ask. And I promise you, you will get the strength and courage you need to move forward in whatever you're working to move forward in that moment. Thanks for being here. Program's called The Smile. My name's Joe Midiga. Together, we will change the world one smile at a time. Thanks for being here.